Hi everyone. We are going to talk about creating effective introductions. And we're going to start with looking at a tip for writing the introduction, because many writers do this after they've written the body of the paper. And the reason they do this is because it gives them a better idea as to what information needs to be covered in the beginning if they've already went through the thought process of writing the rest of the essay. But whether you write your intro before or after, you also need to think about strategies to catch your reader's attention. Because if you can't grab their attention in the first few seconds, you might lose them altogether. So let's look at some strategies that start with an interesting title. Here are some humorous types of titles based on the possibilities for a piece on becoming a vegetarian: Taming the Taco Urges, Scaring the Meat Out of Me, The Re-Education of My Mouth, or Vegetarians Unite. Now, any of these are more interesting than the top title, which says Reading Response Number 1. So this is something you want to think about. Name your title something that is thematic to the essay, but also that will grab readers' attention. So some tips on how to create a great title is to write your essay first and determine the essay's theme. Titles are designed to let readers anticipate whether they're interested in the content, so it means your title should be specific enough to prepare the reader for your topic. So first of all, you'd like to determine your audience. Your title could change depending on your audience, so you want to consider what kind of things that would draw them into wanting to read the essay. And then you want to look at your language. You might be able to find a phrase in your essay that captures your theme or would catch your audience's imagination. Sometimes if you go to the concluding paragraph, and this is usually where you've done some reflection about the significance of your main idea, you can get a good idea about what the title might be from the language in that conclusion. And again, a lot of times we're writing academic papers, so we do want to have an academic title, but you can kind of balance this between using a title that might be catchy and a subtitle that captures the content of your essay. So here's an example. It's A Frog's Life, the Lifespan of a South American Tree Frog. It gives you a little mix of both a little humor and an academic title. So moving on to the introduction. We want to give readers a brief overview of what we'll be covering, but there's a little more to it than that. Now we need to remember that our introductory paragraph is the first impression that we're going to give to readers. So just when you're meeting somebody for the first time and you do not want to give a bad impression about how you speak or behave, the same thing applies in your written introduction. You don't want to have a vague, disorganized, error-filled, or boring introduction, because it will create a negative impression and it will not make the reader want to read further. On the other hand, a concise, engaging, interesting introduction starts readers off thinking highly of you. The other thing we want to think about is creating this bridge. So we want to transport readers from their own lives to the place of your analysis. So by providing an introduction that helps readers make a transition between their own worlds and the issues you're writing about, you give them tools they need to get into your topic and care about what you're saying. So always think about that. How can you create a bridge between readers' everyday lives into the subject that you're speaking about? So we've all heard that term, the introductory hook. This is something that's going to hook readers in and get them interested in our piece of writing. So here's a few things we could use to start out with: an intriguing example, a provocative quotation, a puzzling scenario, a vivid anecdote, a thought-provoking question. All of those can work. And if we look at some examples of other people's openings, it can give us an idea of how other writers do this. And one of the things I notice about this usually is a lot of information is conveyed in a very short amount of words. So if you look at this example by Amy Tan, she says, "My father has asked me to be the fourth corner at the Joy Luck Club. I am to replace my mother, whose seat at the mahjong table has been empty since she died 2 months ago. My father thinks she was killed by her own thoughts." So that's a pretty intriguing introduction. Notice how much information's there. The setting is given. It's implied that the main character is old enough to play mahjong, that her mother has died, and that her father believes her mother's mental state may have led to her death. So it's very concise, very powerful, and it makes you want to read further. Let's look at another example by Elizabeth Gilbert from the story Lucky Jim. It says, "Jim McLaren doesn't have any memory of the first accident. He can't tell you what it feels like to be hit by a New York City bus and thrown 89 feet in the air, to have your bones shattered and your legs crushed, to have your organs pulverized, and to be pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital, because he can't recall any part of it." So right, that first sentence, his first accident, you realize that he's already been in a second accident, and she's provided some great sensory details that make you want to read further. Next, this is a piece called Laurie by Laurie Schiller and Amanda Bennett. "It was a hot night in August 1976, the summer of my 17th birthday year, when uninvited and unannounced, the voices took over my life." So this piece is about schizophrenia, but a very intriguing opening line that makes you interested in what's going to happen next. So you want to see how you can emulate that attention-getting introduction. And in review, we always want to grab readers' attention. We can think about that catchy title to draw readers in. We want to consider our audience and think about what will appeal to them. And remember that first impressions are important, so it's very essential for us to construct that opening paragraph well. And we also want to create that bridge that pulls readers from their worlds into ours. So hopefully this will help you as you craft your introductions, and please let me know if you have any questions.